Well, hello everybody. My name is Jesse. I'm here with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants, just back from the epic Darwin 200 adventure up from Chile to Peru. Joe's gone in my place. He's going up from Peru to Ecuador, and I hope you've had the chance to follow along with our world's most exciting classroom. That's just a little personal note. It's just so exciting to be back. This is my first broadcast back in business, and we got like 10 more this week. It's like a crazy week of epic adventure and science, which of course is what we're all about here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. We like to bring you the coolest people and places on planet Earth every single day, and everything we do is on our YouTube channel. So if you want to catch this program in 3 weeks, 3 years down the road, go there, type in Samantha's name, type in orangutans, and you'll see all sorts of great stuff. Now, before we get underway and I highlight our amazing speaker du jour, I want to note we do have a Kahoot today. So if you want to play along with a little 4-question quiz, test your understanding, have a little bit of fun, you can do so with this game pin. So pull this up. It'll pop up as a separate tab. No hurry. We're doing this in about 20-25 minutes, but I'll make sure all our classes have that on YouTube and StreamYard in a minute as well. Now today, as you will hopefully all know, we are going to learn about studying orangutans in Borneo. So as I was saying to Samantha before we got underway, when we talk to explorers and scientists around the world, everyone says that if they could go anywhere, it's Borneo. Borneo is a really special place on planet Earth. It's one of the most biodiverse islands and places in the world. It's got some really, really incredible wildlife, but most chief among them is the orangutan, which is just an incredible animal, one of our closest relatives, a great ape just like us. And today we're going to learn about her amazing work to study their immune health and how it relates to human health, which is a topic that we're getting more and more into here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Now with that, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to bring in Samantha, and Samantha's joining us for the first time today. So welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to our show. It's so nice to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about my research.
Well, I know you've got a lot to share, including the world's greatest first photo to kick off a program. So please do dive in, tell us about your work, and take us away.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, so hi everyone, my name is Sam, and today I'm going to be talking about my experiences studying wild orangutans in Borneo. So I'm going to start with a little introduction about myself, my background, and then I'm going to get into orangutans, briefly talk about them and why I study them, and then I'll get into my experiences this past summer conducting fieldwork in Borneo for the first time. To start, I mentioned my name is Sam. I'm currently a PhD student at Boston University, and I consider myself to be both a biologist and a primatologist in training. So I got my bachelor's and master's degrees in biology, and now I'm trying to apply what I've learned from those degrees to studying primates specifically, or orangutans specifically. So Jesse mentioned orangutans are great apes. They are native to rainforests in Indonesia and Malaysia, and they're specifically found on the islands of Borneo and Sumatra. And the name orangutan actually comes from the local language, and it directly translates to person of the forest. And this makes sense because orangutans are the most closely related to humans. They belong in that like great ape category that you also find like chimps and gorillas in. And orangutans are really interesting because they are the largest arboreal mammals to exist. Arboreal just means that they spend most of their time in trees. They're also solitary, and they spend most of their time alone. And they don't live in large groups, which is, I guess, more normal for other primate species. And most importantly, they're critically endangered. So their populations have declined a lot over the past few decades and are at risk of going extinct. And this is for a bunch of reasons. I haven't listed them all here, but I think these are some of the important ones. First and foremost, human population sizes have really gone up in the past few decades and have started moving into orangutans' natural habitats. They also experience a lot of logging, so cutting down trees, and in place of that, putting in palm oil plantations. So this decreases their natural habitats even more. Global warming and climate change are also causing a lot of forest fires, which further damage their natural habitats. So I previously mentioned that orangutans spend most of their time in trees. So if they're cutting down these trees and getting rid of places where they eat, sleep, live, there's not a lot of other places for them to go. And lastly, I also want to mention the pet trade. So people will take usually baby orangutans away from their mothers and sell them as pets. They look cute as babies, but then I think people realize they get bigger. They're not as cute anymore when they get bigger, and it's really hard to, I guess, take care of them and keep them as pets. So that also creates problems because then these orangutans don't really know how to behave if you try to put them back in the wild. So when I first started this PhD program, I thought about these threats that orangutans face, and I really wanted to come up with a project that will help kind of contribute to protecting this species. And I decided to focus on studying their health and immune function, which is how your body fights infection and disease. So in the past, it's been really hard to directly measure health in like really big animals like orangutans. Again, they're like really big, they're high up in the trees, so we can't just take blood samples and analyze them like you would if you went to the doctor. But fortunately, more recently, in the past few years, a lot of new methods have come out that allow scientists to use non-invasive measures of health. And non-invasive just means like we're not poking them, we're not prodding them. We can just collect their urine and feces, which they just drop on the ground anyways, and analyze that to understand their health better. So for my own research, I wanted to understand how changes in their diet, social interactions, and reproduction affect their overall health. And in order to do that, it was really important for me to visit orangutans in their natural habitats and learn how to collect all this data from them in order to, begin answering these questions. So last summer, I had the opportunity to travel to Borneo, specifically a park called Gunung Palung National Park in this area called West Kalimantan. So here it is zoomed out on Google Maps. And here are some actual pictures of the park. So I think Gunung Palung is really special because it encompasses 7 different habitat types, which we don't really see in other parks or like areas that orangutans live in. So this park specifically has more swampy flat areas, also places with more plants and greenery like you see in this picture on the left, also more sandy places that almost look like a beach, and also mountains, which I'll show down the line. So here is another map of the park, a little more zoomed in. And as you can see, it's a pretty big park. It's not possible for us to, be everywhere at once. So we want to settle in and have a home base. So Chabang Panti Research Station is, I guess, the main home base for people who work here. This is where we eat, where we sleep. Basically, whenever we're not out in the forest following orangutans, this is where we stay. And as you can see, it's pretty deep in the rainforest. So how do we get there? We fly in and we drive to the nearest village outside of the park. So this little black dot here, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but this is a village called Tanjung. It's one of the villages that's closest to the border of the park. So we drive here, and then from there we can get into Chabang Panti through 2 methods, which I show here. So you can either hike in or take a boat. So my first time going in, I hiked. This takes about 4 hours. The other option is to take the boat. So this sounds easier, maybe nicer, more fun. But the downside of taking the boat is that it takes twice as long. So I ended up taking the boat back out to leave the rainforest, and it ended up taking around 8-9 hours, depending on how high the water level is in the river. And then once you get there, I wanted to show some drone footage that my friend took last time he was here. And you can see in the first few seconds a shot of the cabins that we live in at Chabang Panti Research Station. And as the drone is going up, you can see how tall the trees are in the rainforest. and how remote the field site really is. It really feels like you're in the middle of nowhere, like once you're there. And yeah, you can see the rest of the park. The mountains are in the background, which is another one of the main habitat types that are like part of this park. And yeah, I'll keep talking as this plays. But essentially, once I got there, what did I do? I was learning how to collect data from the wild orangutans, and there's a lot of steps to learn. So I'll try and break that down for you in the next few slides. So most days I would wake up early and conduct what we call full day follows, which is when we follow the same orangutan for the entire day from when they wake up to when they go to sleep for the day. And this is a really big team effort because of how much data we're trying to collect. So here on the left is a research assistant. They usually come out and help collect urine and fecal samples. So here's Sumi. She is holding a bag of feces that was collected, and she's sticking a thermometer in the bag to try and measure body temperature for orangutans. When orangutans are sick or like not feeling so well, their body temperature increases a little. So we use this to kind of gauge how they're feeling. And we also collect behavioral data. So you can see in this picture here, this field assistant Toto is holding an iPad, and we use those to collect behavioral data. And the field assistants usually have another field assistant helping them out. There's another guy here, he's looking through binoculars, and he's usually telling the other field assistant what's going on so they can record it. At the same time, they're also collecting food samples. So whenever the orangutans are eating in the trees, they'll usually, drop food onto the ground. So we collect that, we put it in bags, and we save it for later. And then lastly, we also have the same person is also filming the orangutans in case they're doing anything interesting. So we can always go back and see what they're doing later. And yeah, we're in the rainforest. So as the name suggests, it rains a lot. But even on rainy days, we still go out. We just put on a poncho and we stand under these plastic tarps for as long as we can to stay dry. And we always go wherever the orangutans go. So if they're moving through the trees and end up crossing a river, we also have to cross the river. So it's always a really busy day, just trying to follow them, make sure we don't lose them. So in the next few slides, I want to show some videos that we took over the summer and talk about some of the orangutans that I got to watch specifically. So this is Alfred. He is an adult flanged male. The flange just refers to the fact that he has these like fatty cheek pads on his face and also a throat sac, which indicates that he's like a little more dominant as a male, and females prefer mating with these males. So in this video, you can see he's like moving around the trees, trying to find food, and they're really flexible. So you can see he's like doing the splits here, and he's also using his entire body weight to kind of help him like swing between trees. So this is another orangutan I got to see. This is Bibi. She is an adult female. And in this video, she's climbing around the tree looking for things to eat. If I fast forward, you can see her eating. So Bibi actually has a son named Bias who stayed with her all summer. He's not in this video, but he's around 7, 8 years old, which means he's kind of on his way to moving out and becoming more independent. So that's why he's not here. But she would be eating in one tree and he would always be around nearby, maybe like 2 trees over, eating his own food. And I want to contrast that with another adult female I got to see. This is Barani. And as you can see, she has like a little infant with her. So the infant doesn't have a name yet, but it was born last December, so still less than a year old. And she's completely dependent on her mom for survival. So when they're this young, they just hold on to their moms, go wherever they go. And orangutans are really interesting, especially the females, because they take care of their infants for like 7 to 8 years, which is how long it takes for them to learn how to be independent. And let me zoom forward so you can see her face a little. But yeah, this is really important because in such a big rainforest where there might not always be food around, you have to learn how to travel through the trees without falling and hurting yourself, and also knowing what foods are safe and okay to eat. So yeah, we would follow these orangutans during the day, and then when we get back at camp, we have to process all the samples that we collected. So here's a little sneak peek at what a lab in the middle of the rainforest looks like. Nothing fancy, but for fecal samples, we kind of mush them up, break them down, and we look for fruit seeds to see how they're digesting their food, what they're eating, and the feces get stored in alcohol, and we analyze those later. Same thing for the urine samples. We can't really do much with them in the rainforest, so we just freeze them and analyze them later when they get shipped elsewhere. And then I also learned how to process food samples. So this is a really important part of understanding orangutan health, because when we're following them, you'll see like they just eat all day. So this is really important data. We identify what plant species they're eating, we weigh them, we dry them, and we do all this to measure like how many calories they're eating, how much energy they're getting from their food, because that also affects their health. And all the samples that we collect in the rainforest eventually get shipped back to our lab in Boston. And we do this because there's just a lot of equipment and supplies that we need to analyze the samples that we can't put in the rainforest. It's very humid, there's lots of bugs everywhere, and it would just make a mess. So yeah, that was my summer in Borneo. And I've been in Boston since then. I've been doing a lot of things. I've been finishing my classes, continuing to work on developing my research project. And most importantly, I've been learning how to analyze urine samples. So on the picture on the right, you can see one of our freezers where we store all of our urine samples. So there's like hundreds, if not thousands, of samples in here that are just waiting to be analyzed. And because analyzing urine is a really important part of understanding orangutan health, I've also been practicing how to analyze the urine samples. So one way you can do that is by measuring specific hormones in their urine, and that can give us much more specific measures of their health. And then hopefully by next summer, I should be able to go back to Borneo and collect my own samples for my own research project. And then with that, I wanted to finish off by shouting out all of these people. First and foremost, my advisor, Cheryl Knott, has been running the Gunung Palung Orangutan Conservation and Research Program for over 30 years now, and has built up this really incredible team of local Indonesians. And they're the ones who are engaging in conservation work on the ground every day. And they're also the ones who trained me last summer. So none of what I talked about today would be possible without their help and their guidance. Lastly, I'd also like to thank Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants for the opportunity to talk about my research. And thank you to all of you for being here today, for listening to me.
Oh, Sam, that was so much fun. And what a, like, this is one of the joys of these broadcasts, that we get to highlight that for kids, if you're interested in animals, if you're interested in wildlife, if you're interested in anything, but from an animal person perspective, like Sam and I, you can end up getting to go to some of the coolest places on planet Earth to study some of the most amazing creatures. And that is something that, like, a direct track. Like, I mean, every biologist we bring on started as a kid in grade 4, pretty much, like many of you today, that was just super keen on something and turned it into a passion and a career. And getting to highlight what that looks like on the ground and what that research is like is just really special every time. So Thank you so much for all of that. And you're like so speedy, which means we have an epic amount of time for the Kahoot and Q&A. So I love it even more. If you want to come out of screen share, I don't know what your setup is, but feel free to do that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
what I'm going to do is pull up our Kahoot. So some of you are already in the Kahoot. What we're going to do is 4 quick questions with Sam. And Sam, you can help us out with some answers as we get closer to the end of each 20-second segment. But the faster you answer, the more points you get. And what you win is Sam and I's everlasting respect. So I think that's worth something pretty cool. Game pin is 7237908. And if you don't want to play live, but you just want to yell out the answers in your class, that is totally fine as well. I'm going to give you guys just a few seconds to get in, and then we are going to go live and take this underway. But Miss Fiera, 7 persons, Miss Lou's class, Viola Desmond, our California crew joining for the first time. So nice to have so many of you today. And I'm going to kick us off in just a second. Let's dive in as you guys are pouring in. And you can keep pouring in as we get underway here. Then we're going for questions. So get your orangutan and field biology questions ready. All right. 3, 2, 1. Question 1. Orangutan is a word meaning, and I'm so glad Sam had this near the beginning, but who is paying attention? Let's see. Is it orange one, forest man, hairy beast, or tree climber? What were we listening to? Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. It would be cool if it was orange one. It certainly sounds like that, orang, orange, but might not be, Sam, I don't think. What do we got? Yes, forest man. So man of the woods is how I first heard it as a kid. I was looking this up today. So some variation of forest person, which is really cool because they really do. Like, I mean, you've had the chance to see them. Like, yeah. The glance you exchange with an orangutan is like every bit like what with a person. And that's true of all the great apes. It's quite a special experience to see them. And I hope our kids get that chance. All right. Knowing Griffin is in the lead as we go to question 2. Let's see. Orangutans are the largest that's hard to say. Largest tree-dwelling animal, true or false? So are they the biggest creature in the world that lives in trees? What do we think? They're pretty large. Are they the largest? What could be bigger? Is there anything? I don't know. We've actually never gotten to feature this question before. That's kind of fun. What do we think? Yes, they are. They're. How big do orangutans get at their absolute max? You would know. 150.
Oh, not off the top of my head, but the males especially are like huge in person.
Huge. Yeah, a cheek patter when they've got the big face is one of the most special kind of animals I think exists on planet Earth. They're so unique. So you guys all got this right as classes. Way to go. Keeps our leaderboard the same as we go to question 3. All right. Orangutans live entirely on which continent? So where do we find them? Is it Africa, Asia, Australia, South America? I know we talked about Borneo. Where's Borneo? We had a little picture near the beginning, but I think this is an important one because a lot of our apes are in different places, and orangutans are sort of special in where they get to be compared to our chimpanzee, gorilla cousins in the family tree. So yes, Asia, Indonesia, Borneo. Are they, sorry, they feature they're in Malaysia as well, maybe?
Malaysia, Borneo is kind of split between Malaysia and Indonesia, so it like combines both.
Okay, perfect. But they don't venture far south as Australia. That would be really cool if there was an Australian great ape, but that's just us. We're the only ones who went there. All right, taking to our final question, and I like this one whenever we get to feature this. And let's see, Knowing Griffin has held the lead the whole time by 2 points. It's to the wire. Okay, orangutans are one of mankind's closest relatives. What percentage of our DNA do we share with them? Is it 1%, 15%, 50%, or over 95%? How much? How close? The kids in Miss Lou's class are like bouncing up and down. Let's see. Maybe you guys are the leaders. I don't know. Let us know who you are in the chat at the end if you win. But no matter what, thanks for playing along. The answer is Sam. It's amazing, isn't it? It's over 95%, which most of you got right. It's crazy. We are so related to the other great apes. It's quite wild. And I mean, if you look, I think one of the easiest ways to think about this, because people, we wear clothes and we stand upright and all this stuff. But like, if you look at a human skeleton versus the other skeletons of the great apes, they're like shockingly alike. We're more upright, but that's one of our sort of evolutionary adaptations. They're pretty close. Let's see. Sam, okay, here's our leaderboard before we go to questions. And Miss Lou's class, I'm coming to you guys first. Helpful Wombat is 3rd, who's inexplicably a witch frog. Rockstar Gazelle, a penguin and an explorer cat for some reason, number 2. And the winner by 2 points, Noe Griffin. You guys are awesome. Let us know who you are in the chat. That was fantastic. I'm going to head to our grade 4 crew to kick us off with a question. So Miss Lou's class, come on in and take us away. Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hey.
What is it? What is the orangutan's lifespan?
Oh, lifespan. My advisor is actually starting to look into this, but we think orangutans can live almost up to 50 years. So they live for a very long time.
Now, I'm so glad that you phrased it that way, because I think when I was a kid, I assumed that we knew every lifespan. We knew everything about animals. And truly, it's hard to follow something like an ape for that long period of time. The research is still, I mean, it's not in its infancy, but we're still developing an understanding of a lot of creatures. Blue whales, we don't really know where they have babies in the world. And that's really weird. They're the biggest animals to ever exist. So I'm so glad we sort of stumped the scientists to begin. So thanks, Ms. Lou's class. Great job. Miss Vieira, 3rd graders, let's bring you guys in. So nice to have you in Riverside. California, welcome in. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Oh.
I have a question about the orangutans.
Perfect. Go for it, man.
Why are they most related to us than any other monkey?
Ooh.
Yeah, so orangutans are part of like the great ape category that humans are also in. So it's in this group we have humans, chimpanzees, gorillas, bonobos, and orangutans. And it just, I guess, happened to be like that because of I don't know. I guess like because of genetics, like they just
Yeah, it's a hard way of phrasing the question, but yes, like I mean, we split off from them. So just like a family tree, every animal on planet Earth, including us, is part of a family tree. And orangutans are one of our closest relatives. We're in this small little group that all split off in the last, 10, 15 million years from one another. So we're wildly related. And as we showed in the Kahoot question, over 95% of our DNA is the same as orangutans, which is pretty wild. So great question, guys, and thanks, Sam. We're going to head to our 7-person school. Let's come on in. It's Christmas class. Alberta, come on in and unmute your mic and flick on your camera and come say hello. We've also got our 6s at Viola Desmond. So if you guys want to flick on your mic as well, we can come to everyone. YouTubers, don't be shy. But we'll take as many questions as we can over the next 15 minutes together. 7 persons, our 6-1 crew. If you guys want to come on in, please do. While I'm waiting for you, I'm going to head back to our classes. 7 persons. You can come on the camera, but you just share one in the chat. So their first question is, how long do babies stay with their mom, Sam?
Usually 7 to 8 years is how long they stay with their moms. And this is because it takes them a really long time to, I guess, learn how to become independent and do things on their own.
Yeah. And it's so funny because as people, we're used to staying with our families for, well, millennials stay until they're like 30 and beyond. But that's really rare in the animal kingdom. Like very, very few creatures have that long a period where they're learning from mom, learning from dad, learning all these cool skills. And that's sort of one of the unique features of great apes. So I'm so glad we got that question. Thanks, guys. We will come back in a minute to the chat. Our other Viola Desmond crew, you guys can feel free to pop on anytime, but I'm going to head back to Ms. Lou's class, grade 4s. Come on in and take us away. Hey.
Do orangutans attack humans?
Ooh.
In the wild, I don't think so. I don't think they do. Or at least when I was in Borneo this past summer, we're watching the orangutans from a distance and they know we're there, but they don't really bother us. And when they want us to kind of back up a little or, give them some space, they'll make this like squeaking sound with their mouth. And that tells us, okay, like leave them alone or else they'll get a little upset.
I never heard that before. That's amazing. If you want to illustrate the squeaking sound, you're welcome to do a demonstration, but that's fascinating. So out of curiosity, when you're going, how often do they do that? I'm sure you, as a team, you sort of have a pretty good sense of how much space to give them, but have you had the squeak done to you?
Yeah. It sounds like a kissing sound, like you're making like a kissing sound with your lips. Yeah, like that. It's called a kiss squeak.
I'll try and find a video for our classes that I can send you guys after this broadcast.
Yeah.
You can hear what the orangutan like go away sound is. Very cool question, guys.
Yeah.
All right, Miss Vieira, I'll head back to you guys. Come on in and take us away. Hey, third grade. Are we frozen? We're having a few tech difficulties. This is half the fun of a video broadcast, so you never know quite what's going to happen. So play around with it. If I see your camera flick back on, I'll come to you. You can share some questions in the chat. But we'll take another one from our 7-person crew, which was, let's see, biggest threat to orangutans. Is there anything that really jumps out as being something that really helps, sort of contribute to them being critically endangered?
I think a big one is definitely deforestation. So like cutting down the trees that they live in. This is really, I think, a big threat because orangutans are arboreal. They do everything in the trees. So if we cut down the trees, then they really can't go anywhere.
This is something that I always like to harp on for our kids because it's a thing that a lot of people don't really recognize as being a threat. A lot of us know climate change now, which is fantastic. And climate change pretty much threatens everything on Earth because it's changing habitats, it's making things move to different areas, it's reducing habitat. But habitat loss is the fundamental thing. If you had to go sleep outside right now, that would be very difficult for you, especially if you're in winter. You need a home, and everything needs a home. And so if we cut down the forest that the orangutans live in, they're the forest man. They can't live without that. And a lot of the forests in orangutan habitat have been cleared in the last few decades. So really, really important to try and protect that habitat. It's something that we always talk about in a lot of our broadcasts here at Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. So great question, guys. Miss Vieira's class, you're back. I'm so sorry you had some tech difficulties. We only missed one thing. So you're good to go. Hey. Oh, great hair. You're the best hair ever.
Thanks.
Go for it.
But is an orangutan the only species that is related to us?
Ooh.
No, orangutans are not the only species. So I think orangutans are one of the species that is most closely related to us. So all the other primates in that great ape group, like chimps, gorillas, orangutans, bonobos, those are the most closely related to us, but humans are part of like a larger like primate family tree. So we could even say like monkeys are related to us.
Right? And this is the thing. You're most closely related to a brother or sister of yours, and you're a little less related to like a cousin of yours. But in a fundamental way, you are related to every other human being on Earth. Now, it's not quite the same degree, and that's true of wildlife as well. This is one of the most astonishing things that we've ever learned in the history of science, is that all life is related. So yes, orangutan, over 95% of our DNA, but you share like 70% of your DNA with like a fish, and you share like 60% of your DNA with a fly and a tree and an amoeba. And that's amazing because life all started in one spot and has diversified from there. So you are literally related to every living thing on Earth. And that, if that blows your mind, that's not a concept that you hear very much in grade 3. But when you get older and older, you'll get to learn more and more about that. And it's literally my favorite thing in all of natural science. So great question, guys. All right. Classes without ability to pop in. If you want to share some more in the chat, please do. I'm going to take some more questions from our YouTube friends in a second. And Miss Lou, I'm coming back to you live momentarily as well. One question for you, Sam. Is there a favorite part of your job? This came in online. Is there something that gets you up in the morning that you just absolutely adore?
Oh, that's so hard. I think just being able to study a topic like this, and just like get paid to do it. I never thought I'd be able to study primates. I thought, people like Jane Goodall were just like one-offs. So to be able to study something that a topic I find like really interesting and to do it every day for a living, I think is just so much fun.
One of the joys of this role is that I get to meet people who are like living their absolute dream job every single day. And like, we all just pinch ourselves daily. Like, it's so cool to get to do this. And it's even cooler to get to share it with all of you. So thanks, kids. You guys are great. Sam, let's go back to Ms. Lou's class. 7 persons. I'll take your question in just a second. Thanks for that one online. Welcome in, grade 4s. Hey.
Are the orangutans smarter than any other animal?
Ooh, smarter. What do we think?
I don't want to say smarter, but they're definitely, I think, up there in terms of smart animals. Like when you're watching them in the wild, or at least what I noticed this past summer, they do so many things that are similar to humans. So it's hard not to, I guess, not to think they're smarter than other species, for example.
There's a few groups that we consistently hear about in these broadcasts that are among the most intelligent on Earth. So great apes, like us, are very, very intelligent. Whales and dolphins are very intelligent. Parrots and crows, which are interesting. So a lot of you will see crows where you live. So they're a very intelligent kind of bird. But I'll share two quick anecdotes about orangutans at the Toronto Zoo. We're doing a Toronto Zoo program in a few days. I used to volunteer there. And every day the keeper would come and wash the glass with a rag. And the female orangutan would grab a rag and dip it in the water, and she'd come wash the inside of the glass to mimic him. And they also had these big black tubs that they could like play around with and put on their head. Well, one of the females put it in the water, got in it, paddled across, and escaped the enclosure. So they had to put holes in it so that could never happen again. So they are very intelligent, problem-solving animals. They're one of my favorite groups in the world. So great. I'm so glad we got the intelligence question. We're going to take two more questions, speaking of questions, before we wrap up together, because time flies and you're having fun in these programs, Sam. 7 persons class wants to know, how long are orangutans' arms? It seems like they've got superior reach to get through the trees. Can you speak to that?
They're definitely very long. I don't know off the top of my head like how long they are, like measurement-wise, but yeah, definitely very long arms. I want to say they're longer than their legs. And they have those long arms to help them move through the trees. They kind of like swing across branches and things like that.
Yeah. I'm looking this up. This is one of those questions that's like Googleable as we go. That's actually something that kids always like to ask, but it's actually something that most scientists don't just know off the top of their head. So the two things that I found are orangutans can have a 7-foot arm span from fingertip to fingertip, which is incredible for a creature that is big, but not quite as tall as sort of a big person. And then their arms are so long that they're 1.5 times longer than their legs and stretch to their ankles when they're standing. So when we stand, our arms are like to our hips here, and theirs are all the way down to the ground, which is crazy. So I love that question, guys. Thanks so much. All right, Miss Vieira, you don't need to share there. I'm going to come to you live because it's a great question, and we'll wrap up after that. So come on in and tell us.
How often do they have babies?
Yeah, awesome question.
Yeah, I'm so glad someone asked this question because I think it's a really interesting part of the species. They have babies around every 7, 8, 9 years. So I think I mentioned in my talk that their infants kind of become independent by 7, 8 years. So because of that, once they're off on their own, the moms can, have babies again. And it takes so long compared to other great apes because the environments they live in don't have a lot of food. So it takes time for them to build up like enough energy to reproduce.
I'm really glad we got that question too, because orangutans are one of those creatures that are like us, that like take a long time to have their first baby, only have a few babies, and take really good care of them throughout their lives. So if you lose orangutans, it really hurts the species. It doesn't take many orangutans that have to be killed in some fashion before it really starts impacting the populations. That's why they're a creature that's of such importance to help protect. And great question, guys. All right, our second Viola Desmond crew had one more question. I lied, Sam. We're going to take one more. They want to know what do they eat? What's their diet?
They eat a lot of things, mostly plants, fruits. They prefer fruits mostly, but they'll also eat like leaves, bark, termites. I saw a lot of them eating termites over the summer. Yeah, I think those are like the main ones. They don't eat meat.
No, so I'm so glad you mentioned termites too, because they're such a freaky creature and we don't really have them in the way that they exist in Indonesia and other places here in Canada, but they're so special. And that's true. So gorillas are herbivorous, orangutans, herbivorous, chimpanzees, which are our closest relatives, and bonobos do eat meat. So chimpanzees, just like us, will eat meat whenever they possibly can. And it's one of the differences in the great ape family. So great question, guys. Classes, I know we could talk all day about orangs. I'm so glad you guys love them so much, and we had the chance to hear from Sam today about her amazing adventures. We are going to do what we always do to wrap up broadcasts, and I'm going to bring in our classes, Sam, to say a big thank you and farewell. So our classes without cameras, you guys can wait and stream at home, but Miss Lou's class, Miss Vieira's class, join me in saying thank you so much, everyone. Oh, here we go. Thank you so much. Guys, have a wonderful day.